In this episode, I'm going to be talking about life without parole. Now, life without parole was brought out in 1983 and it was reserved for the most severe and heinous of crimes. People who had committed more than one murder, people who had been to prison for murder, been released and committed further murders, and people whose crimes were so bad they could only merit a life without parole. Now, there's some 100 people being given this sentence since 1983, and there's currently around about 70 still serving it. And I will be covering all 100 cases, but if you go and have a look on my playlist on Life Without Parole, I've covered about 9 up till now, and I will be getting through the whole lot. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about Lee Newell. So Lee Newell is originally from Norwich, and he was born in 1969, and he committed his first murder in 1988. Newell killed his 56-year-old neighbour, Mary Newell, and for this he was given a life sentence. Whilst serving this life sentence, he met Gary Smith in HMP Long Lawton, and they went on to kill another inmate. Gary Smith from Leicester was jailed in 1999 for murdering 22-year-old Ali Hassan. Smith believed Hassan was a police informer. He killed him and dumped his body in a nearby quarry. I'll now go on and tell you about the murder that these two committed while serving time in HMP Long Lawton. Two prisoners who bound and strangled to death a fellow inmate in a high-security prison have been told they will serve the rest of their lives behind bars. Gary Smith, 48, and Lee Newell, 44, who were already serving life for killings, were both given life sentences by a judge for the chilling murder of Subhan Anwar. Ruling that the pair should never be considered for parole, Mr. Justice Jeremy Baker said, "There is in reality no mitigating factor in either of your cases." Smith and Newell followed 24-year-old Anwar into his cell in Long Lawton Prison in Worcestershire armed with weapons fashioned out of a pen and a toothbrush before binding his ankles with tape and strangling him with his own tracksuit bottoms. Smith then made Newell a cup of hot chocolate before they let prison guards into the cell and were taken away into segregation. The pair blamed each other, but a jury took less than 4 hours to find both guilty of the attack. Smith and Newell have not said why they killed Anwar, but the judge pointed out that there was a moral code in prison that included targeting those guilty of offences against children. Anwar was serving time for killing a child. Both defendants refused to leave the cells at Warwick Crown Court to hear their sentences. The judge nevertheless addressed his remarks to the pair, saying, "One of the most chilling aspects of this case was the almost complete lack of emotion shown by either of you after the killing." The judge said this was one of the exceptional circumstances that was so serious that neither man should ever be considered for parole. He said that the murder of Anwar had been planned, and although the motive may never be known with certainty, he said, in the course of the trial, the jury heard evidence about the type of moral code which exists within the prison population, a code which may be enforced by the use of verbal abuse, physical violence, and even on occasion death. It may be no coincidence that the deceased in this case had been convicted of killing a young child. Newell and Smith were initially sitting in the dock to hear sentence passed, but demanded to be taken back to the cells after the judge gave permission for Anwar's parents to sit in the well of the court rather than the public gallery. The victim's family said they would continue to fight to prove Anwar was innocent of the murder of his partner's child, 2-year-old Sanam Navaska, in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. A police spokesman said Anwar considered Smith and Newell friends, but they had acted like animals. He said Subhan had been in Long Lawton Prison for 4 years and he had built up friendships with prisoners and officers. He had proven to be a model prisoner, was a wing representative, helped prisoners to be heard, was well behaved and never caused any trouble. We are all shocked and saddened by how Subhan was killed by Smith and Newell. Jurors heard that Anwar appeared to be his normal self on the day of the murder. He had phoned his family and in his role as a wing representative discussed the provision of CDs with another inmate. Just before 6 p.m. he entered his cell, closely followed by Smith and Newell. The cell door was shut, locked from the inside and the peephole blocked. 40 minutes later, one of the killers contacted the prison control room using a cell intercom and told an officer, "I have taken the guy in this cell hostage. It's not a joke. I think he's dead." Asked why, he replied, "I'm bored. It was something to do." When prison officers arrived, they spoke to the men inside the cell, which remained locked. The pair appeared calm. Asked by one negotiator what had happened, Newell replied, "I don't know. I wish I knew myself." Asked if Anwar was still alive, Newell replied, "He is with Allah." Smith then said Newell was a bit shaky and made him a hot chocolate with icing and sugar. The two men eventually opened the door around 8:20 p.m. Anwar was found lying on the bed face down. His ankles had been tied together with 2 meters of tape, and he had been strangled with his own tracksuit bottoms. He had a bruise to his forehead that could have been the result of a punch, and a bruise to his right shoulder, possibly where he had been struck by shanks, makeshift weapons fashioned out of a pen and a toothbrush, that were found below the window of Anwar's cell. Later that night, another prisoner in the segregation unit asked Newell what had happened. The prisoner asked, "Did you open up his guts?" Newell replied, "No, it was his neck." Anwar was jailed for life in 2009 for murdering his partner's child. She was found with fractures to all 4 limbs and died after fatty deposits from her broken thigh bones entered her bloodstream. The sentencing judge told Anwar, "Your cruelty is beyond belief." He had previously been attacked by 2 prisoners while being held in Doncaster. With it being both defendants' second murder, the judge decided to sentence them to life without parole. Now, also in this video, I'm going to be talking about a third person who is also serving life without parole, which is Gary Vinter. And Gary Vinter attacked Lee Newell in Woodhill Prison. Now, Gary Vinter is serving life without parole for 2 murders. Vinter was jailed in 1996 for the murder of a work colleague and served 10 years in prison. Upon his release, he killed his wife in 2008, which he was given a whole life tariff. Vinter attacked Newell in the special segregation wing because he wanted to be moved to a prison with better gym access. He had requested a transfer 2 months earlier and was frustrated at the time it was taken. CCTV footage showed Vinter punch Newell to the ground before kicking him numerous times in the face and head as he lay on the ground. Newell suffered head and brain injuries and was left blinded in one eye. One of the prison officers said, "These were the worst injuries I have seen in a prison in 21 years of service." Gary Vinter received another life sentence on top of this. Judge Richard Foster told Vinter, "You must be one of the most dangerous individuals within the prison system today. Your record is truly shocking." He set a minimum term of 18 years, but called that an academic exercise. You will, in any event, spend the rest of your life in prison. Lee Newell sued the prison system and said he should never have been left alone with Gary Vinter to be attacked like that. He received £85,000 in compensation. All 3 murderers, Smith, Newell and Vinter, are serving life without parole and will never be released from prison. I hope you enjoyed the content, people. Remember to like and subscribe. Take care.